I'm interested to hear. So Jamal, for you, what were you looking for in a mate? And then, of course, I want to hear from you too, Amy.
What am I looking for?
Or what were you looking for? I know you're engaged now.
I mean, God bless me. You know what I'm saying? God bless me with Michelle. And it's just different. Way we met looking for a crib. She's a realtor. We met looking for houses. And when we just spoke and we talked, we both been through the bull crap and we just understood what we both want. And we had those talks. I think a lot of times it's about talking and conversing, not physical, or more mentally. You know what I'm saying? So
I want to piggyback off that with Spirit. I don't want me to just like dump on the younger generation, but I feel like they are missing something with not getting that time, that talk time.
Well, believe it or not, it's different for every generation. And so every generation is dating differently. So one of the things that I say that the millennials have down that perhaps our generation, because I'm in the 40s too. I don't know, you guys are kind of younger maybe, perhaps.
I'm 48, I'm right with you.
Okay, stick it out, so
40.
we all here. Right, so but with the millennials, they have more what we call egalitarian relationships, where they are equal in how they do things, equal division of labor inside the home, outside the home. They're saying, I have my own bank account, I have my own friends, you pay your half, we do our half, and we all get along. But for our generation, it's a little bit harder because, see, we are caught in the middle. We have been taught by the older generations to date like them, so the men are looking for women like their grandmothers. I want a woman who cooks, who cleans, who holds it down in the bedroom, who does all of those things. But they're not men like their grandfathers, where they could hold down a single income, go to work all day and then come home. So they want us to do all the traditional things, but then they need a 2-income household as well. So it becomes a very difficult kind of conversation. I'm not talking about biggie money.
Hold on now. There's some good men out here who got plenty of paper and do everything. Because
Well,
you
that's
said
not-
it's not.
that's
We don't
not-
want to do both. Now, it's a lot of us that do everything.
Listen, most men cannot do, in today's economy, most men cannot do a single income home. It takes in this society 2 incomes nowadays for most people to hold things down.
We're talking about in Atlanta?
I'm talking about all over the country. The average income, especially in Atlanta, right now we are the #1 city for inflation. So when you talk about just the idea of home ownership, most people are being priced out of being able to live in this city where they grew up. And so it's a really interesting perspective because right now we need 2 people, we need 2 incomes and sometimes 3 and 4 with part-time jobs to be able to hold down a household. And so what happens is you have women who are saying, listen, I cannot go to work all day and then come home and take care of kids, do homework, swing from the chandeliers at night, and then get up all over the next day to do it all over by myself. I need your help. And a lot of men go, oh, but my grandmother could do that.
I've been having these conversations with my friends that are all in the mid-40s, very successful women, and then their men are one foot on one way of thinking and the other foot on the other. They want all the benefits of all that stuff. And if you're working as hard as your man or more and contributing 50% or more, are you less motivated to then be that freak in the bedroom and be that enthusiastic cook every day and clean the house as well when you're working just as much as your man contributing to the house? Do you think that's fair? You ever think about it like that? Because
I've never been in that situation.
well, you're very
I've
successful.
always been, but nah, I'm not very. I'm regular.
Well, you're not regular. You think you're regular?
I'm always gonna be like that. I'm always gonna be super humble spirit.
Well, humble, but the reality is that you do well for yourself financially,
I'm
correct?
okay.
Right, so there's a lot of, I mean, this is not a male bashing show. I just want to be very clear about that, and that's not what this conversation will ever be. But again, like I do think some men want to have their cake and eat it too.
let's unpack that a little bit, right? And I understand it, but let's talk about post-pandemic, of course. A lot of things happened in the pandemic that a lot of people weren't prepared for. And I think you, Dr. Spirit, could perhaps give some perspective on it. I do think that, to that point, Jamal, that a lot of women, you know, do feel that way, and you have a lot of successful women in a city like Atlanta. And across the country, Black women tend to outpace brothers in the sense of their success, their income, all of those things. But the question becomes, how do you balance it? I mean, if you are going to work, sometimes I think, and I like alpha females, but I think that sometimes there becomes a bit of an issue when you're trying to create your own internal dynamic in your household, right? And I think that, you know, there's a lot where the disrespect can kind of become overwhelming because of the outside media influences, you know. And I would ask you, I know you're a influencer in a significant way. I mean, what are you looking for? Do you feel like as a woman that, you know, you could make more money than your significant other and it still be okay?
Well, in my case, I dated someone who wasn't successful. I was the girl who was holding the man down. And that doesn't work out every time. I feel like, but it's signs to that though. Like, it's a lot of red flags. Of course, if a man is too willing to receive from a woman, like take from a woman, I just feel like he's using that woman. It's just a fine line. But it's kind of, I guess that situation scarred me. Honestly, I don't want a man who needs me. You know, I don't want a man who needs me. I want to be able to just love him. I want him to be 100% him, and I need to be 100% me. Like I said, I'm taking this time off to make sure that I'm good for him, because I can't say, hey, I want an amazing man, but I'm not an amazing woman. I'm making sure that I'm looking in the mirror and looking at my reflection, regardless of how ugly it is, like, or with scars that I have, I'm willing to heal myself.
Do you think your girlfriends are like that, or the other women that you may know? Because when we have these conversations, obviously, there are trains of thought that we know are out there. And a lot of times we're not being very honest about what the train of thought is. I mean,
have friends who have...
You all might be different, but you know, a lot of women, obviously, who...
I hold my friends accountable. I think you're not a good friend if you don't hold your friends accountable. And if you just go and co-sign their BS, you're not helping your friend grow and be a better person.
Right.
So if my friends are violating and thinking, like, again, even when if a woman says that same, you know, I need a man that has this, that, and the other, and they're not bringing anything to the table, sis, you're out of pocket.
Yeah.
Because you can't be one-sided. And that goes for men and women. It's the same thing to me. You know, I see a lot of people that are bringing nothing and they demand the utmost of everything. Men and women as well.
But I don't think men can take it. I don't think they can take not being the man in the relationship, the one that's holding it down. I have a friend, sorry to put her business out, but I have a friend that she's more successful than her guy. And he always say little things like, oh, when you do this, you probably gonna leave me. You probably gonna, you know what I mean? He always on guard, feeling like you feel like you don't need me, or it's always a really insecurity in him not having more money than her, even though she loves him.
But does she, so, and I understand that, but is it something that she's putting out there at the forefront, or is it just him running with how he feels because he simply, you know, is insecure?
I feel that it's insecurity.
Okay, and the only reason I said that is, and I mean, I think Dr. Spirit, you perhaps can elaborate on it. There are some women who, for instance, I know of a woman who pretty much would talk to her man, and he was exemplifying the color purple. He was Seeley in this situation, so to speak. And she would talk to him very harshly and in public. And I think that, you know, the dynamics of the relationship were gonna be tough for them to stay together. And I mean, apparently recently they just kind of, you know, he moved out. But I think that, you know, sometimes it's a little hard depending on that interaction, if it's not really, you know, a clear understanding, you know what I mean? And it doesn't have to be just because you're making more money, obviously, because sometimes at different points you might be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think it's all about what he's bringing to the table, clearly, and I think you can see past some things.
It shouldn't be competition in your relationship. Like, I feel if you're looking at your person and saying, like you kind of side-eyeing them because of, like, they're doing better, you just need to end that relationship. It's gonna go downhill from there.
And as a woman that's more successful than a man, I think you made that decision to get with that man knowing his status. So do not take work home and talk to your man as he's less than, he's your employee, or like you're his boss. And you have to be able to know how to turn that off, because you wouldn't want a successful man talking down to you because you don't make as much money as him right now.
Right.
And I think that's wrong as well. But also, who wants to compete with their mate?
Well, see, and then that's to that point. When it becomes a competition, then your relationship is already doomed, right? Because what happens is we miss out on the two becoming one. And if two never really become one, then you're doomed to fail. So what I talk to couples about is really about, it's not what I bring to the table and what you bring to the table. Where is your half? Are you matching? Are you meeting me? It is, what are we pulling together? Because if you've got $10 and this is your husband and he's got $6, it's not you got 10 and he's got 6. It's you guys have 16. And your 16 can buy a whole lot more than your 10 alone or his 6. And so if we are not collectively having the shared vision of where we are trying to go into our forevers are going to part ways. It's just the way that it works. And so we really have to be on the same page, but that's what compatibility is all about when you talk about that.
Is it ever really 50-50 though, Dr. Spirit?
It's never 50-50. It's never. And the other part of that is, do you warrant that which you seek? So to your point, when you say these women come and they say, well, I want a man who has this and this and this. Well, what do you bring to the table that complements that, that is going to nurture that, that is going to grow, foster, and further develop that? But then also, do you understand what you're asking for? You say you want a doctor who's a surgeon. Do you recognize what that lifestyle really looks like? You love a man in uniform. You want a firefighter. Do you realize that he's going to be gone or she's going to be gone 4 days a week at the fire station? Are you really ready for that life? And so oftentimes we don't really have a real idea of what it is that we're asking for. And we're not prepared to step into those places to really grow and continue those relationships. They're fantasies. It's not reality.